night, but that wasn't the most eventful TVT series of all time. Now, if you're a thermal fan or you thermal yourself, you don't give a damn because a W is a W, Nate, and that's all that matters when there is money on the line and we're participating in the DreamHack SC2 match this summer. But I'm ready for some more back and forth and hopefully just some more harassing interactions between lovely units. So let's get it on. Top right side, we are looking at the main base of the Finnish phenom himself. Representing ENS, it is Serral.
Very fitting dramatic music for that man. And in the bottom left, we have El Capitan himself. We have the red Protoss player from Team Liquid. He is Harstem.
Already open.
I was gonna say, how do you think Harstem approaches this series? I see the we're talking about the hatch rate. I wasn't trying to interrupt you there, but I was just curious what you think, like how Harstem even approaches a matchup like this.
You mean going up against Serral or PvZ in general?
I think probably more of the Serral part, right? Because there has to be some impact, right, on the way that you prep or think about a series when it's any Zerg compared to somebody like Serral. You have to, right?
Yes and no. I still just think that Harstem is someone who believes in his own builds. He's someone who spends a lot of time not just playing, but obviously creating content and also just trying to figure out what he thinks is an optimal way to play. I know he watches a lot of the top Korean Protosses very often and tries to take the best elements of their gameplay. So I really don't think that Serral or that Harstem is sitting there in the Netherlands shaking in his boots, wondering what kind of crazy thing that he's never done before he's going to do against Serral. He's just going to try to play as solid as he possibly can and bring out his A game and take it from there. I don't think he's really going to do anything different just because it's Serral. He will still just do what he believes in.
I like that. I feel that. Serral with the Overlord Scout gets across. I mean, outside of this hatchery getting put in this spot, he just didn't want to deal with the pylon block, I'm assuming. If the probe tried to just prevent him from taking that hatch. So Serral in a position to just kind of move through the flow of this game. Twilight Council is going to be the tech choice for Harstem. What are we feeling?
I don't want to say that's surprising, because at the end of the day, a Twilight is a Twilight. Like, I think a Robo would be surprising. A Twilight is like, okay, a little bit different, because we all know that it's pretty much all about the Stargates in this day and age. I would say the meta is almost right now to open up with a Void Ray and then maybe an Oracle afterwards, or just a bunch of Void Rays into a Robo and going Void Ray Disruptor. Serral, or excuse me, Harstem opening up here with the Twilight could be just 4 gateways and adapts with Resonating Glaive, could also be Glaives and Dark Shrine, or could be Dark Shrine alone, but that has really kind of fallen out of the meta. So I'm expecting Glaives to be the opening here coming out of the Dutchman. And I like it because we ask for some more action. Well, there is always action when a bunch of adepts make it to the other side of the map.
Very, very true. Maybe looking a little inspiration from Zound maybe here. But I'd love to see that. There it is. The Resonating Glaives kicking off. Chrono Boost going straight into that. Overlord peeping that Twilight Council. Not quite in vision of, though, actually. Got eyes on the Robo instead.
Yeah, but he knows. He knows the timing so well. Serral knows that if this is a Robo finishing up around this time, that there is also a Twilight Council, because anything else wouldn't make any sense. And if it would just be gateway units in a Robo, he wouldn't be too concerned about it. So I think Serral's already seen everything he needs to see.
He's just too smart. Is that what you're telling me, Kev? Serral's just nothing escapes him. He's just reached full Overmind status.
The only thing higher than his MMR is his IQ.
I like that. I like that. As a Serral fanboy, you're just giving me more things to say to annoy other people, and it's really brightening up my Friday afternoon as 11 a.m. over here. But there's the adepts going across the map. Like you were talking about, he did get that Roach Warren down as soon as he spotted the Robo building. So he's got a couple of them on the way, not a tremendous amount of them. But we've seen some of the defenses just be, with the Queens. Still a lot of Lings used for some of the defenses on this, but the Roaches or a handful of Ravagers primarily helping to finish off those adepts. But he's killing the Queens. He's got one down, going for 2, gets the second one.
Yeah, but now the Adepts are actually in a lot of trouble. The War Prism is too far back, so the War Prism can't save it. Roaches have morphed into Ravagers. And Serral is shutting this down before it has ever even truly began. That is amazing defense, Nate. I know it looked promising. Like, you get a queen for an adept. I'm like, oh yeah, that's not bad. Then you get a second queen, but to get the second queen, he had to cancel the shade. And the moment he canceled the shade, he got surrounded. The Ravage is done already, and even though Serral's a few workers down, he has plenty of time now to crank out as many drones as he wants to crank out, and he's going to take a pretty big economic lead because he's got a lot of units still out too to potentially deny Harstem from going up to 3 bases.
Yeah, that's good pressure. I mean, he even had another torrent of lings that he flooded out behind that too, right? He was putting a big investment in there. He's got plenty of units now to deal with anything else that could come at this phase. And Harstem boots up that 3rd Nexus. He's going into the Robo Bay, getting the Forge up as that layer gets closer to finishing. And the Spore Prism still cannot find anywhere to slip in. 2 Spores very well spaced in Serral's main, keeping him out. And now he'll get eyes on that 3rd. If all of the lings were here, I might be asking myself if something bad was about to happen. But I'm kind of surprised he only sent a few of them.
Yep. With 32 Zerglings out on the map and then having queens and those couple Ravages at home, I actually really think that Serral could have just sent them out immediately. Instead, he kept them at home. He really doesn't want to lose any drones. Won't lose a drone. I kind of like that Harstem brought an Observer to the other side of the map to push back the creep a bit. But I'm completely with you. I think if Serral would have sent his Zerglings to the bottom side, 100% that he cancels that Nexus at least one time, because 2 adepts will not stand a chance, even with a shield battery. There wasn't a shield battery at first, but even if there was a battery, 2 adepts against 32 Zerglings, no way, Jose.
Yeah, so maybe a missed opportunity, but you know, Serral, he's probably looking into the future a little bit, something that us pleb humans are incapable of doing. Maybe he feels, maybe he felt something that was a little bit more of concern to him. Sees the first disruptor come out though. I mean, he knows everything. He has every possible piece of information that he could want in front of him. And that's really terrifying when you're up against somebody who can execute as well as Serral can.
Nate, I just want to point one thing out, because even though Serral didn't use those Zerglings to cancel the Nexus, Serral has now killed 13 adepts and has not lost a single drone. I can guarantee you in the last 100 PVZs that Harstem played, and he went for this opening, he has not lost 13 adepts and didn't kill a single drone. Those are numbers that just don't make any sense. You always get a couple of drones, a few adepts always sneak in there, or the units are supposed to be out of position from the Zerg. It's insane that not a single drone went down against his opening.
That's a beautiful setup. And you know, you were talking about at the beginning of this game, and I think most people, you know, you watch StarCraft, PvZ, pretty much staple is the Stargate in almost every game. Especially as the opener, right? I mean, it's just dominated the meta for years and years. And most of these builds are a little bit out there. And one of the reasons why is that Spire, Roddy. And I feel like that's something that we have to keep our eyes on, because regardless of whether Serral decides to go straight into Mutalisks or something of that sort, that Stargate response is not even remotely close to being ready if he gets blindsided. So he needs to be really careful, not just with this move out, but if he gets this army cleaned up and he tries to scramble and rebuild more of those disruptors, oh my god, he's gonna catch one in the middle of the map. Well, I'm worried about Mutas, but maybe we don't even need to go that far.
Well, there's also a couple of Banelings morphing, or at least there were Banelings morphing, rolling into this mineral line, getting 12 probes. My goodness, Yona, show some mercy, okay? Thought we were friends over here, Nate. Like, Serral's playing a picture-perfect ZVP at this point.
Yeah. Well, this is what it's like to watch a good, clean Serral game, isn't it? It's just nothing seems to work. You know, Harstem pulled out his special move, tried to hit him hard, but like a bowler, he just kind of stood there. He's kind of stood there and took it.
Oh, Harstem did see it, so he's gonna send a Nova. I mean, this is kind of a funny way to deal with a Baneling run by. At least it bought some time for the Stalkers to get their way home. Yeah, good defense there by Harstem. Doesn't lose anything in the end. Only some damage on the pylon and a simulator. Well done. But obviously Serral was in a position where he could lose a couple of Banelings without really feeling like it was a big investment.
The Mutalisks are starting now, Kev, as well. We've got 6 of them in production for Serral. Whether or not he's going to commit to a large number of them still remains to be seen. He is getting +1 flyer attack, so that option will be on the table. But there's a lot of stalkers with these disruptors, so it's not like he doesn't have anti-air. It would just be more of a nuisance if the Mutas made it to his base and maybe forced a recall. So he doesn't need to build a tremendous number. He's going to get another 6. So I think 12 or so Mutalisks could be a lot to try and bully this. Maybe try to just snipe the Prism and pull out. I don't know. But he's got a couple of options now that Harstem's going to need to keep his eyes on, because I'm not sure if we have, like, I don't think we have cannons or batteries anywhere. He's been hurting a little bit for the money in this game.
Only at the fort base, but the main natural and the third are relatively exposed. But the downside of Muras is that they're obviously not fantastic in the straight-up fight. So if Harstem would land 1 or 2 great purification Nova with his disruptors, then the rest of Serral's army isn't that intimidating anymore. There is maybe a chance, but it's obviously going to be hard. And it is very important that Harstem, whatever he decides to do once those Mutas reveal themselves, that he is going to be decisive. And the Mutas have revealed themselves in the main base. Harstem wipes in a couple of Stalkers, but 4 or 5 Stalkers simply not enough to deal with 12 Mutas. And Serral's just finding more and more damage.
Beautiful, beautiful moves here. Focus down the shield battery. Harstem Stalker control here, not bad either. I mean, Stalkers, like we talked about, the mobility factor. Yeah, you can blink, but it's not anywhere near as nice as just being able to have a couple of Phoenix, try to micro those and push away. Getting very close to that ground army, though, with these disruptors. And that disruptor count is still huge. It's terrifying.
Yep.
The Banelings are coming around the back for the Templar and the sentries.
They won't reach the High Templars. They will reach the probes once more. 12 additional workers go down. I'm surprised to see that that Prism is still sitting there. I kind of felt that maybe Serral could have picked it up with the Ravagers. Instead, the Mutas are going to reveal themselves one more time, this time in the natural. Not too many workers falling. I think Harstem is doing a good job in hanging in there. But obviously the biggest issue here for Harstem is that he's the one only taking damage. He's on the receiving end of everything. While more Banelings rolling into the fort. Can the Disruptors save the day? Or the Stalkers or something? High Templars! No. Oh my goodness. Yeah. The problem is, Nate, there is nothing happening on Serral's side of the map. And you don't often win a game of StarCraft 2 if you have nothing dealing damage to your opponent while you're sitting at home and you're on the receiving end of taking damage.
Yeah, that's always the tough part about this, right? The creep continues to spread. Serral keeps hitting you left and right. But you need to be able to step on creep. You need to be able to move across the map and get something done. That cybernetics core being exposed is actually going to be something really important to keep in mind. We talk about not having Stargates, Roddy, but in losing the cybernetics core, you lose the ability to make Stalkers. You lose the ability to even try to build that Stargate in the first place. It's going to drop a storm on the constructing Banelings outside this I guess an initial natural kind of base. The Roach Warren is there to get picked off, but the Mutas and the Zlings are getting inside the base as well.
Yep, Harstem is all in at this point, but hey, he still has an army. He's going to try to keep this army alive. The Disruptors are very exposed, though. Most of them have gone down, and I feel that all that is left is really a few Stalkers and a couple of Storms, and that's simply not going to do it against all these units that Serral still has defensively. And let's not forget about the reinforcements that he could always make. An insane game by Serral. Honestly, looked incredibly good from the very beginning till the very end.
No, it's so clean, it's disgusting, Kevin. Yeah. Okay, you walk into your kitchen, you're like, I actually didn't know the countertops were supposed to look like this. That little bit of grime was actually kind of comforting to have. But Serral, so crisp, so clean, just absolutely slices through Harstem's resonating Glaive Adept build. And I always felt that was one of the things that Serral, as a StarCraft player on his own, was always really good at. Really on top of the awareness and the scouting. He was one of the first Zergs that would just basically every single game versus Terran get Overlord speed early, right? Always wants to have that information. Is okay to give up a little bit to get that information. He's fine with not being able to just take that hatchery at the natural like he normally would. He's willing to be flexible in the games. And his execution, even in those audible scenarios, is so good that it doesn't end up costing him anything, and he's still able to play his A game. And that's what we got to see there. Just classic, straight up Serral play, and it was very clean.
You know what's so lovely to watch and observe when Serral's playing is that it feels that everything just flows together so smoothly, right? It's first the defense, then it's the follow-up defense, then it's a couple of Banelings, then it's more Banelings, then it's Mutas in the main, then it's more Banelings on the right side, more Banelings at the third, always paying attention to his main army, never got too close from the Disruptors, but made it very hard for Harstem to get too deep. And then while all of this was taking place, obviously expanding, making sure his macro is on point, had a hive, had an Ultralisk Cavern on the way. Like, by no means was it like, oh, Serral needs to win the game with the Ravages and Banelings where the Protoss army becomes too powerful. No, he was already thinking about the next step in each and every single part of the way. It's very well done. Serral looked amazing.
Yeah, that's about all we can say. Serral played really good, clean game. Harstem trying for that early glaive play, and it just didn't work out. Like you said, the prism wasn't close enough to be able to pick up any of those adepts that were getting grabbed by the lings. Even though the 2 queens got killed, still couldn't get it quite close enough for the ability to reinforce and help. And after that, everything just went Serral's way. So we're going to go to Jegantha for game number 2. We'll see what Harstem decides to pull out here. As it's just a hard matchup to get, man. If you're going to play in StarCraft tournaments, you're going to run into Serral and Raynor. That's just how it is.
Yeah, but this group is obviously pretty competitive, with Mana in it as well, Soul, and of course Lambo, who's been on a little bit of a tear lately. Even though he doesn't show up on the Monday evening, he shows up in everything else, and he's been looking damn good. So it would be awesome if Harstem could win at least a map. I don't think he's necessarily counting on winning the best of 3, but winning a map here could go a long way in potential tiebreakers down the line. But first up, we're going to introduce this man one more time in the top right side, hailing from Finland. Representing ENS, it is Serral.
And his opponent in the southwest position of Jegantha, the red Protoss player from Team Liquid, he's Harstem.
Sometimes I'm just left a bit speechless by everything that I see. And I know we shouldn't get too carried away because Serral's the favorite, and it becomes a bit annoying if we're going to praise Serral non-stop for some of the viewers, but he really did make everything look easy from the Zerg side. And it's not. It's so easy to either overcommit or undercommit to a certain part of the game that he went for, and then things could have spiraled out of control real quick, but it really felt like he had a perfect balance of everything he was doing every step of the way. It's kind of like watching a work of art unfold in front of your eyes.
Yeah, I think despite any biases or, like regardless of what race you play in StarCraft or who your favorite player is, I feel like if you're a real fan of this game, you have to be able to respect the people that just do it so well, right? It's such an amazing thing that you can see people who have earned the ability to receive such accolades as a guy like Serral, because we constantly talk up about him, but there's a reason for that. He earned it over the years, and he's been an awesome player to watch. And don't worry, I'm sure we'll end up casting Raynor at some point, and we'll be doing the exact same thing, because those guys have really separated themselves from the pack in such a meaningful way that it's worth bringing up all the time, because it is that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm. But let's not forget about that French kid, who is perhaps the favorite for this season.
Oh, yeah.
As he's been looking incredibly good, especially in TVC. I do think there are maybe more players in the tournament that could potentially upset Clem than that they could upset Serral or Raynor. But when it comes to the head-to-head, especially on this map pool in best of 5s and best of 7s, I don't want to say Clem is the favorite, but maybe he is, because he just kind of keeps beating both of them. So that's going to be super fun, and we do expect those matchups to take place in the playoffs. But first up, we're going to cover all the group stage games.
Yeah. Oh, man. I was trying not to get too excited too early in the tournament about Clem, because I am actually too excited about it. But I cannot wait to see more games from him. What a story he had last year. Mm-hmm. And a comeuppance of sorts. He's just been so good, so fun to watch too. Fantastic player as we get into this game. Stargate for Harstem, by the way. So we're going back to reality a little bit here. PBZ.
It's going to be Void Ray or Oracle. It seems like we're going to open things up with the Void Ray. Could be an Oracle afterwards. Could also be nothing but Void Rays, and maybe even a second Stargate down the line. Serral did switch things up a little bit, right? He opened up with the spawning pool in this game, but it wasn't a super early pool, so we didn't really have to go crazy over it or be like, oh my god, he's got a circling rush. None of that. It's just a slightly earlier pool in case something either super weird was happening, and it would also throw the timings off a little bit. As you guys could see, Harstem was like, he's not having a drone on the low ground, and then you kind of have to go into the main base with your probe, because you want to make sure you don't get 12 pulled. And while he went into the main base, well, Serral was already hiding a drone, and it just allowed Serral to still take his natural as his actual natural. So a little bit of a switch up, but it doesn't change that much.
Yeah, nothing super crazy. The Oracle behind it, of course. Always nice to have that mobile harass, scout, and in a worst case scenario, we've seen miracle stasis traps before. Giganitha has a very long sort of feeling to it, the way that it's laid out, but you have those speed boost zones to kind of get around. They're not placed in the exact pathways all the time. These Lings trying to poke over towards that third, but Harstem is in a pretty good spot. Puts the warp in behind the Adepts to limit the surface area available to those Lings.
Yep, I like that because it's already a choke point with the Pylon and the Nexus, but this reduces the surface area even more. I haven't seen that too often, actually. Kind of like it. It's a 25 mineral investment, but it's just to make sure that your Adepts don't go down and you don't have to activate Colza Beam before you want to activate it. Because Oracle Energy may not seem like a big deal, but obviously Serral's very good. The moment you activate it, you're going to be... The Zerglings will just run away. Kind of feels like you're wasting your energy. You'd much rather bank up some energy for more stasis traps down the line.
I'd rather not risk it versus a guy like Serral either, right? You know, take what you can get. Take what you can get and just try to execute. Focus on the execution. Don't give anything up trying to play cute or a little bit cheeky against him when you know that he's not going to make any mistakes. And if he sees you if he sees you trying to take advantage of something, he's always going to pounce on it. That's why he's been so successful. He doesn't give up those plays to folks. So getting that third situated early, very important for Harstem. And he's got a couple of Void Rays, going to keep pumping him out, going into the Robo Bay. So I think well in line with the expectations that you've been setting here, Rotterdam. But we got some Penguins marching across the map, though, very slowly.
It's 7 queens already, so at first I was like, is Serral serious about this? Because he's obviously on 53 drones, but now he's still making roaches, and that's absolutely giving me the feeling he is pretty serious about it. Harstem is still on just a single Stargate, so he's not going to have the Void Ray numbers to overwhelm these queens. Now, if we can get a couple of cannons and batteries up, we're obviously going to be fine, but this is going to be really hard. And you know what almost always happens? Is that while the fight takes place, Protoss players will start floating minerals, because they don't have too much production. It's one Stargate and one Robo. Yeah, we've got those 2 gateways, but those gateway units don't have any special upgrades, so it's really important that we just keep building static defenses, and obviously keep chrono boosting out Void Rays and Disruptors, because we don't have a lot to work with.
No, and it's such an awkward position because he's got the Ravagers here going to be trying to help zone with the Corrosive Biles, even if they can't normally shoot up at those Void Rays. Going to try to Bile down on the cannon. Disruptor shot hits the middle of all the Queens. So, I mean, that's going to be the first wave of the transfusion energy burned on most of these guys, right? So he still has them alive. Needs a second shot in the middle of maybe those Ravagers, I think, to try and get a bit more room to try and bully against this army. Shield batteries are holding his pot as long as they can. The overcharged battery does get picked off, though, Kevin. Harstem fighting for his life here in game number 2.
And not a good Nova, but it's only damage on the Queens. We're not killing the Queens, and that's problematic because Queens can heal each other up for days. Mentioned it before, it's so hard to spend your money. Harstem is trying to do whatever he can, but it seems like he's just running out of DPS. Didn't have the Void Ray numbers, didn't have the Disruptors.